Welcome to episode 73 of Accessible Finance. Let's dive in.
All right, Eric. So we got a listener question,
Extremely
and it's
excited.
a multifaceted listener question. To be clear, this is a listener question that I already gave to Eric because there was research needed to make sure that we are addressing all aspects of this question. It's a great question.
Mhm.
All right, so I'm going to read the email in its entirety, and then we're just going to kind of break up each question individually, okay?
Love it.
All right. Hello. I love following your posts, and you have great information. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you do a special episode for retirees with pension plans? I know the WEP just ended. Does that mean my Social Security will not be reduced at all anymore if I have a pension? Does that apply if you don't have Social Security yourself, but will be drawing from your spousal benefit? And finally, can you address what teachers can do as pension holders? Should they work summers to earn Social Security credits now, or is that worth it? Should I just work on earning income without worrying about Social Security paying jobs and put the extra money into a 403B or a Roth instead? I have questions, but I bet a lot of teachers or state workers or anyone with a pension really may be wondering the same things. And we are going to anonymize her name and refer to her as Lucy today.
Thank you for the question, Lucy. Fantastic question.
Very,
Love
very
it.
good question. Very rich question.
Yep.
So to address the very, very first question, Eric, it was, I know the WEP just ended. Do you want to speak to what the WEP stands for?
Yes, Windfall Elimination Provision.
All right. We'll get into what that means, but that's what it stands for. So question 1, does that mean my Social Security will not be reduced at all anymore if I have a pension?
Yes,
Mhm.
that is exactly what that means. Yes, correct. You have correctly interpreted the rules, and that is, as best as we can tell, exactly what's going to happen to you.
Beautiful.
Right.
All right. We'll answer the second question, and then we'll kind of dive into
Sounds good.
what it was like and compare it to what it is
Okay.
like now.
Oh, do we want to talk about the WEP for what it was supposed to do?
I think we can do that when we talk
You
to
got it.
spouses. So the second part, which kind of goes hand in hand with that first one, says, does this apply if you don't have Social Security yourself? So, for example, I only have a pension, but my spouse has Social Security, so we'd be drawing from his spousal benefit. Does that mean that I get to keep my pension, he gets to keep his Social Security, and we as a family unit get both?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, that is correct.
So
That's
let's
correct.
talk a bit about what the WEP is and why the spousal benefits question is a really good question.
Yes. Great point. So the WEP was enacted essentially to try to make, I guess, more fair or to equalize the individuals that were not participating or not paying into Social Security, so not paying the Social Security tax on your wages.
Mhm.
They were instead paying into another pension plan, and then they're going to be rewarded by receiving that pension plan. And so the idea was, let's not let them double dip into Social Security and their own pension. So they would reduce Social Security benefits or eliminate them entirely based on your payments or lack thereof into the Social Security taxation. The
They
Social Security
wanted
structure.
you to avoid having the windfall of both your incredibly massive pension and your incredibly large Social Security amount.
Right.
Because you would then have far too much money.
Right. And so the GPO is just kind of another side of that coin. It stands for governmental pension offset. I think it's just government pension offset.
Mhm.
But the idea is it involves spousal benefits. So if I have a pension, if I'm receiving a pension, and then I have a spouse that dies, right? So like Rachel unfortunately passes away,
Mhm.
I would not be able to get her full Social Security benefit. And the way that used to work is it will be reduced by 2/3 of the amount that I'm receiving for my pension.
So let's break that down with
Yeah, I
some
agree.
numbers to make it a little easier. And I like the idea of using us like for that example,
Sure.
right? So what is my take-home Social Security benefit right now?
$800 a month,
Okay, I have 800. Your pension was
$1,500.
okay. So I have 800 a month. You have 1,500, and you
Correct.
said 2/3.
Correct.
So it's 2/3
So
of your.
we would have to reduce the amount that I would get, my deceased spousal benefit. But remember, this is a Social Security component. We reduce that by 2/3 of what I'm getting, or 2/3 of 1,500 is 1,000. So that's more than 800. So I would get none.
Now, when you say 2/3 of what you get, let's say that you were receiving a pension and then some like reduced amount of Social Security. would we add everything that you're getting together and it's 2/3 of that?
No,
So it's
the
just
pension.
2/3 of your pension.
My understanding is it's just the pension. Yes,
Okay.
correct.
That makes sense because this is to try to prevent the pension Social Security double dipping. So your pension's $1,500. If we take 2/3 of that, it's $1,000.
Correct.
That's more than my $800.
Correct. So I'm not getting any of it.
You're getting
None of it.
negative $200.
Correct.
But they obviously they're not going to take money.
Right.
But you're getting $0 of my
Right.
hard-earned Social Security money.
So now if we want to change the example up a little bit,
Yeah.
right? So Rachel would still be getting the $800.
Yep.
Okay.
But your pension's lower.
My pension now, let's say it's $600 a month.
Okay.
All right. So if we want to reduce what I would get by 2/3 of 600, now we reduce it by 400. I'm still going to get the 400, right?
Well, it's a little tricky when we're doing the 400. So let's just to be clear.
Oh, I failed at the example.
You didn't fail at the example, but I have 800 in my pension, right? I mean, my Social Security. His pension is 600, right? So if we're taking 2/3 of that, we're taking $400 is the 2/3 worth of his pension.
Mhm.
So we're reducing my Social Security by 400. So my 800, we're now subtracting the 400. And so the remaining amount, which happens to also be 400, is what he's taking back. So
That's why you're a teacher. You would have chosen a better example than this.
I wanted to clarify that the 2/3 of his pension is not the amount he's taking home. It's the amount that you're reducing my benefits.
Correct. So in that example, right, where I was having the $600 pension and she had $800 Social Security, I would now have $600 pension and $400 of her $800 would come my way, right? When she's deceased.
Just to highlight it with one more example, if my Social Security instead of 800 is now 1,000, right? We're still reducing. You still have $600 pension, so 2/3 is 400.
Mhm.
So we're going to take my $1,000 pension, reduce it by not pension,
Yep,
my $1,000 Social Security. Thank you. I caught it before I finished.
You did well.
Taking my $1,000 Social Security, reducing it by 400. So then he now has 600 take home. So that again was the old rule and the way that it used to work. But with the elimination of the, oh my gosh, what is the acronym?
What, GPO?
Yeah.
Government pension offset?
Yes.
Okay.
So now in this scenario, right, if my Social Security is 1,000 and he has no Social Security, he can now take my $1,000 Social Security, or 800 if we did our earlier example, and then keep his full pension as well. There's no 2/3 magic happening.
Right. So just brief summary, the WEP or Windfall Elimination Provision, again, no longer in effect, was to reduce what the pension owners would get, or pension recipients would get.
Mhm.
And the GPO was to prevent the pension recipients from getting something after they're getting portions of their spousal benefits. Does that make sense? So one of the GPO spousal benefits, the WEP was your own benefits.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's probably the way to distill it and to remember it succinctly. Again, neither of those apply. So how does that change things is essentially what you're asking now. So
Correct.
let's get into the question.
So the third question, which is a really, really good question, it's his favorite question, and he did a lot of research on it.
I'm excited.
And it's a great question, especially for the population that Lucy's representing, which are teachers. The question says, what should teachers do as pension holders? Should they begin working summers to earn Social Security credits now, or is it worth it?
Right.
We know that a lot of teachers work during the summer to supplement the embarrassingly low
I was wondering where you were going to go with that.
rate of income that they are currently afforded. As a previous teacher, it's criminal, but that is a whole other soapbox for me. But we know that teachers do supplement their income during summers. And so it's a really, really good question of like, what should they be doing? Should teachers, now that they can get both benefits, be looking for Social Security jobs, or should it just be like, whatever?
Right.
So Eric, what did you find in your research?
Well, I mean, there wasn't a ton of research to do, but I wanted to know what the breakpoints were.
Well,
So here's the important thing to know here, right? When we're calibrating what the optimal play is, Social Security benefits are calculated based on what's called a primary insurance amounts, or PIA. All right. And the way that works is it has breakpoints. And what they will do when they're calculating this, breakpoints means you don't get Social Security isn't going to give you, 100% of all of your earnings. So if I make, $20,000 a month, Social Security is not going to pay me $20,000 a month.
Right.
The way that works is I get 90% of the first up to a certain amount of dollars, right? And we're going to talk about that. It's 90% of the amount up to $1,226 a month, or $14,712 a year in 2025. So up to the 14.7K I make in a year, Social Security is going to give me 90% of that. All right. And then the other breakpoints after that, after I've made the 1226 and I've cleared that hurdle, I've filled my 90% bucket. What happens afterwards? Then I get 32%
On dollars
on the
over
amounts between 1,226 and 7,391, right? So like 1,200 to 7,400, let's say. I'm only getting 32% of that. And then I get 15% of the earnings over the 7,391 up to the cap.
Okay. So this is a lot to process.
Yes, it is.
But
the
feels
point is,
similar to like tax brackets, but
it does. But the thing that's really important in my mind, right? Like, so when we're looking at analysis, is you get 90% and then you get 32%, less than half of what you're getting on the first portion.
It's a third.
Yeah, it's roughly a third. That's exactly right.
Math teacher. So.
Right. Or, well, it's not exactly a third. It's not 30, but I'm just saying.
It's way closer to 30
Gotta be
than
exact.
less than half.
Important to be precise.
But no, okay. So I think of the fact that they are scaling it or putting it into these like different little thresholds as something similar to tax brackets, right?
Sure.
But if you're looking at tax brackets, it's a pretty like steady incline.
Right.
This is a super huge
drop off.
Steep decline.
Enormous drop off.
To the point where I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, is your advocacy then to really fill up that 90% bucket and then not stress about going beyond that and look for higher earning potential.
It will change the math. It will change the math a bit, right? So a couple more things to know.
We haven't talked
so now we have
Security credits either.
Correct. I know we need to do that.
So let's touch on that.
We talked about the primary insurance amount and how the benefit's calculated, but how much in terms of earnings, or the way Social Security refers to it as credits, do I need before I can get any benefit at all? Before they'll pay me benefits?
Yes.
The answer is you need 40 credits, okay? Now you can get 4 credits a year. You cannot get more than 4 credits a year, but you can get up to 4 credits a year. And
so if I'm a pure pension holder and have not been paying anything into Social Security, it will take me at a minimum
10 years.
10 years.
Correct.
So if I am older and I'm looking to retire soon, and I do not believe that I have 10 years of jobs to put in for Social Security, then I'm better off just going for whatever's paying me the highest amount. Yes?
Correct.
I mean, not as my primary job, but as like my supplemental, like summer stuff, right? Because that's what we're really talking about.
I've already got benefits. Yeah, you're looking at total compensation packages.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm my teacher. I love my job. I have paid into my pension. My pension's good. But during the summer, I now have 2 to 3 months of freedom to but 2 to 3 months to supplement my income somehow.
Sure.
If I am not going to have 10 years
where
I can get 40 credits.
Right. Yeah, I agree. 100%. That's a good point.
All right. So let's talk about those credits. So
the credits, right? You get 1 credit for every $1,800, let's call it, in covered earnings each year. That's in 2025 dollars, and they inflation adjust it up. And then if you get $7,240, then you get 4 credits. Okay. So the idea here is, if you're trying to work for these 10 years, you need to know that you need to clear the bar to get all 4 credits for a year, right? And that bar is $7,240. All right. So in 2025 dollars, does that make sense?
So for teachers who are out there then, Eric, and are working during the summer, if, let's say realistically, we're talking the months of June and July. So in those 2 months, if the jobs that teachers are looking for to be able to get Social Security credits would not earn them at least $7,240,
right,
then they're not getting the full 4 credits.
Correct.
Which means that it would either take them
longer than 10 years.
Correct.
Yep. Or they need another job that's paying into Social Security.
Correct.
Just again, to reiterate, you need to be paying Social Security taxes on these wages.
On every dollar of those wages.
Correct.
Yes. Great point. So if I am working something where I don't know, I'm not getting a W-2, right? If I'm doing something like that where my earnings are paying into Social Security, but I don't know for a fact that I am going to hit $7,240 every summer, If you're young, you might be more inclined to do that because
Right.
you have more than 10 years to do this. But if you're older and you're looking at, I'm not going to be doing this for 10 more years, you're
Mhm.
probably far less inclined to worry
Agreed.
about your Social Security credits.
Agreed. So, knowing how all of this works, right? Should you work summers to earn Social Security credits now, or is it worth it? I think the most succinct answer that we can give is if you think you're going to work 10 years and you can hit these breakpoints, so you can hit the 7240, right? And you believe that tax law will stay as it is today, and Social Security payouts will stay as they are today.
Really good
And
point.
Windfall Elimination Provision and GPO are all going to be still not in effect, right? They're gone. It will be, I do agree that it'll be kind of hard to unring that bell. It's typically harder to take good things away from taxpayers and voters than it is to just give them things, right? So once you've given them something, it's going to be harder to roll that back, but it could happen, and it does happen sometimes. So anyway, point is, if you believe that we're going to operate in the status quo, which is like how things are right now with these laws, I think it makes a lot of sense to try to work for 10 years and to get the Social Security,
Yes.
right? Because you're getting 90% of what you're paying in. And if you can, I mean, if you could pay up to, you'll get 90% of up to $14,712, right? So you can get yourself, you will be getting a very high return on your money. You're getting almost 100% of that for life when you start to claim Social Security with COLA adjustments. It's a
COLA's cost of living adjustments.
cost of living adjustments. You're going to have COLA.
And 90% of, by the way, that $14,700 is $13,241.
Right.
So we're not talking small amounts of money.
No, you're right. You earn 14.7 for yourself in like the current day, and then you're going to get 13 for life if you claim at 67. And if you postpone, you get more. And if you claim earlier, you get less. But the point is, that's going to be inflation adjusted as long as Social Security, again, like we said, we're assuming, we're making assumptions here. And those very, very key assumptions are that the rules are going to stay the same.
Yeah. Now, quick question. Caveat, right? Let's say that somebody who currently has a pension is currently working with a pension, but at some point prior to teaching or being in whatever job is giving them the pension, they did work some job somewhere where they did end up paying into Social Security somewhere. So there probably are some credits tied to their Social Security number.
Okay.
How can they go about finding how many credits they already have? Because they may be like, look, I'm kind of on the bubble. I'm not young where I know for a fact I could do 10 years, but I might not have to do 10 years.
No, that's a fantastic question.
Thank you.
Log into ssa.gov, right? So log in, get your Social Security statement, find out.
Yeah.
So you're going to need to make a login. You're going to need to do it.
Correct. And if you're not sure, check. Because as we were discussing, you can earn up to 4 a year, but if you worked summer jobs as a kid, you probably have some tied there. You may have had a job that you were working before going to where you have. If you have, 8, 12 credits, that knocks off 2 to 3 years of your 10-year timeline that we're looking at here. So it might make this a bit more appealing if you were kind of on the fence.
Yeah.
All right. So then the final question was, alternatively, like if this ends up not necessarily being my cup of tea, I'm going to be working for, I'm looking to retire in the next 3 years.
Yeah, I think it's just drilling down on what's optimal, right?
Correct. So then the alternative or the next question was, should I work on earning income without worrying about Social Security? So again, what job you're working on is going to depend on what we just discussed. So she was saying, should I be focused on putting my extra money into a 403B or Roth instead?
Again, great question. I love it. I would say that the answer to that question is no. If you think you can work 10 years and you can contribute even just to the baseline of that 7,000, you're getting 90% of that 7,000. We said, I say 7,000. I just want to be very clear because these amounts do matter. $7,240, right? So that's what we're talking about in 2025 dollars, and then it'll go up over time, but it's not going to go up, dramatically. It's going to be inflation adjusted at about 4% or so.
And again, that $7,240 is the bare minimum.
That's to get the 4 credits.
Correct.
That's to get the 4 credits. Ideally, like if you're just min-maxing the game, right? I shouldn't say things like that because most people don't know what that means. But if you're trying to maximize your utility, like if you're looking for absolutely what you should do to be
biggest
completely
bang
optimal,
for your buck.
Right. The biggest bang, that's a great way to put it, is $14,712. So that's the goal, right? That's the
And so
that's
to
the
be
dream.
clear, what we're talking here is that in order to get 4 credits, you need $7,240. If I earn $10,000, I still get 4 credits. So I don't get any added Social Security benefits for credits because I still am on that, 10-year timeline if I don't have any, right?
Right.
So I'm not getting extra credits. However, I'm still in that window or threshold of earning 90% in Social Security
Yeah.
of what I'm earning.
Exactly.
So if you are earning anywhere between that 7,240 up to, what was it, 14,712, okay? That is the sweet spot for I get all 4 credits.
Yep.
And I'm getting
And
90% on the dollars.
They're paying me 90 cents of every dollar
Yep.
in benefits when I retire.
Correct.
Forever.
Correct.
And COLA adjusted, right? That's a big deal. You're not going to get that in your 403B. You're not going to get that in any in your Roth accounts. No, there are very few people that like Roth accounts more than I do. Okay, if you listen to the show, and thank you for listening, you'll understand that.
Lucy knows.
But this is like employer matching on steroids, right? Like this is employer matching. Granted, it's 90 cents of every dollar, right? Sure, I agree. However, it's COLA adjusted and it's paid out in a pension form forever. You know what I mean? Like it's
a
very
big
good
deal and it's a huge benefit. So
you're getting a free federal government annuity with COLA adjustments. Like you can't go buy an annuity that.
So then, Eric, to that end, let's say that I am a teacher. I'm looking for my summer job, right? I have 2 options. I have a job that's going to pay me $8,000. So I'll get $4,000 in June, $4,000 in July.
Okay.
It does pay into Social Security. So I will get all 4 credits. I will get 90% of that $8,000 when I retire, right?
Yep.
Option 2.
Sorry, I wanted to nitpick. Can I nitpick? Okay, so you said you would get when you retire, but it's not necessarily when you retire.
The
earliest you can claim is 62,
yes,
but the latest you can claim is 70. I have to be me.
Okay, be you.
Okay.
So option 1, $8,000 pays into Social Security.
Okay.
Option 2 is $10,000 does not pay into Social Security.
Okay.
Okay. So I think a lot of teachers out there who are usually in a position, at least initially, where they may not even necessarily be contributing the maximum amount to their retirement plan because money is tight because salary is not sufficient, right?
I agree.
They may be very tempted by this $10,000.
Right.
I get 2 extra $1,000. I mean, making an extra fourth, right? 25% of what I would be making the other job.
Yep.
At what does that break point look like for me? Right? Is
High.
It worth Social Security? Is it worth me taking a lower job that pays into Social Security if I think I can get my 40 credits?
Yes, it's not close. So the way I would think about this, right, is the present value of your future Social Security benefits, and since they're cost of living adjusted, kind of a back of the envelope math you could think about is think about your $8,000, and then because that's what we said, $8,000, and then think about 90% of that.
Yep.
Okay. Right. So 7,200.
Yep.
So take my 8,000 plus my 7,200. Right. And think about that. And then really you need to think about it though, in terms of the 7,200 you're going to be getting every year from when you retire to when you die. So you need to think about what you think that is. Is that 20 years? Is that 27 years? Take that 7,200 and multiply it. But minimally, I would be thinking about it almost doubling. I would minimally double.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like I would minimally take that 8K times 2. So it's 16 or bust.
That was my suspicion.
And I think it's higher, to be clear.
I do too. And I think that it's very, very easy to be swayed by the higher price tag now.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly hard to set yourself up and delay that gratification later, especially when money is so tight, as we know it is for teachers and state employees across the state, right?
Right.
So I do think that it is incredibly important that if you don't absolutely have to have that $10,000 for an emergency fund or something that you need right now. I think a great rule of thumb, like you said,
I may even try to do it with emergency fund. I try to substantiate an emergency fund with a Roth account or a retirement account.
And I honestly think doubling it is great because you're measuring your kind of base benefit there. But it's important to know that base benefit is every year you are collecting your Social Security.
And it's cost of living adjusted.
So it will continue to go up. So you could potentially think of it like 10 times what it is rather than double, right?
And if you think about it, the additional couple thousand is going to be
Yeah.
paid at your marginal bracket. So it's going to have tax drag. And even if you put it in a tax advantaged account, it's still going to be after tax wages. There are multiple reasons to go with the Social Security. Again, the huge underlying assumption we're making here is that this status quo will be perpetuated. What I mean by that is the rules that we're operating under today, we will be operating under when you're going to take this, and they don't reenact the WEP or reenact GPO.
That's caveat number one, which again, we have touched on.
It's huge.
It's going to be very, very difficult for them to
unring the bell.
Correct, to go back. The second assumption here is that you are going to earn your 40 credits.
Correct. You got to get that done.
If you're sacrificing for a lower paying job and then you end up trying to collect Social Security with 36 credits, that's going to be really painful.
Right.
So make sure you have a game plan to ensure you are hitting those 40 credits. The benefit is massive.
Hugely impactful.
It is massive. But again, like if you are looking to retire next year and you currently have 0 credits, then this may not be the ideal situation for you to do it. So again, do check your Social Security. Do see if you have any credits tied to your Social Security number already.
Right.
Just so that you can kind of map out how long it's going to take.
Look, thank you so much for the question.
Excellent
Great, super
question.
smart question. Great
Yes.
question. Love it.
Yes. Hit us with more.
Well played.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So again, if you have any questions yourself that you'd like us to answer, just shoot us an email to at podcast@equilibriumfp.com.
Thanks, guys.
Till next time.